Rudo Nondo is a fashion designer of note. Not only does she create exquisite pieces, but has a bent towards sustainable fashion. On this episode of The Hub, Rudo spoke on storytelling through design, sustainability in fashion, and her rollercoaster journey to finding purpose and meaning in life.
You know, when you're at uni and you're going out and, you know, friends are having parties, like, oh God, and in my head I'd have a certain outfit that I wanted to wear. Then I'd go to the shops and I just couldn't find it. Like, it was just not there. So I was now even getting frustrated with my shopping trips and, you know, what I was doing. So it started feeding into, I think I am maybe doing the wrong thing, but anyway, carried on, finished my degree. And then again, we always have these family meetings. Saka, what is the next step? So there's a legal practice course, and I was like, you know what? It's okay. Chimbomira ipapo. Not going anywhere further than this. And that's where that conversation stopped. Needless to say, I disappointed a whole lot of people. Fast forward a few years, come back to Zimbabwe, and whilst I'm here, again, I was just trying to find my footing. I was thrown into marketing at some point, but whilst I'd been at the last job, you know, people would stop and say, what are you wearing and who made it, and we like it. And I'd like sit and list and say, if you go to this shop in town, you can get this fabric. If you need help putting this together, you can see this lady, because I was still afraid of machines. Like, I always picture like a machine like going through my fingers, scared of a machine. And anyway, following that, I just decided, because also that's when African print was in, and I was now transitioning from an all-black wardrobe. So I went to Roadport, right, booked my ticket, phoned my mom when I was on the bus, and I was like, yeah, I'm off to Zambia to buy fabric. And she's like, what the, you know, where are you going? I was like, no, I thought this out. I'm pretty sure that is straightforward because people do this all the time. So that was literally the transition from law to design, and that's what then started my design career. When you're working out in the community and again interacting with people, you're now realizing that the things that they do, the certain methods, there's a story behind them. So when I'd ask, how come you're doing this design? I was based in Bulawayo, but I was working for a community in Matopos. And I'll be like, oh, can we design with maybe the brown? And they're like, the brown is what the community in Benga does. So that is when I started actually realizing that there's more depth to what we're doing. Went through that phase, moved from there to Swaziland. And my Swaziland brief was artisan-led design, storytelling through design. And that was deep, because I got there, these ladies used to make placemats, and you know, the brief was they should start making other products, right, that higher value, that will bring them more money. But that is when I properly understood what storytelling through design is, because you know, you get into a community, you're getting to know them, they're getting to know you. Again, we're exchanging stories, but then now we're throwing in vision boards. And then through the vision boards, you're now starting to understand who these people are. I started realizing that there were a lot of similarities as well. Started like, you know, drawing out colors and words from what these women were saying. And then in that, we actually designed two pieces. So the first piece we designed collectively was called My Burden, My Load, because a lot of these women would come from their houses and would sit in the community center. And you know, at first I would be like, you know, we're doing them a great favor, like we're helping them through their basket weaving, only to realize after doing a home visit that that was their community time, like their time to fellowship with each other. But they had businesses going. So it's when I started realizing again that there's more depth, but we're not getting to the bottom of it, because we are seeing the picture that we want to see. And then what I loved about that as well is that after the ladies got paid for the work that they had done, their first bit of pay, they actually managed to buy like a table and chairs for the community center. So that is when I was like, okay, this is the true meaning of storytelling through design. Okay, so my sustainable journey started in 2008. And I hadn't even thought that I would be in the fashion industry, but I watched this documentary that just like blew me away. So it was called Blood, Sweat and T-Shirts. They went to the factories that were making their clothes, and they went to factories that were making clothes from mango. And as I was watching what they were uncovering through it, then started realizing the truth in the fashion industry. And I remember again being moved when this one lady was like, I just sit and I saw the sleeve on this jacket. And they were asking what her wage was, and she said what her wage was. Then they took her to the mango shop, and she actually saw that the jacket that she had made was basically more than her annual salary in the shop. So this is when I started thinking, and not to pinpoint and say this brand, this is just what I, visually remember, but a lot of brands were doing this, where they'd basically go in and get all this cheap labor, and then these clothes would end up in the high street. So after watching this, I then decided myself, basically to hold myself accountable for how I was consuming and what I was buying. And already, like I said earlier, I found it hard anyway, going to the shops and getting clothes that would look nice or things that I felt, comfortable in. So I then went on this journey where first thing I did is I'd look at labels and see where these items were made. And this is rookie sustainable fashion mistake where it's made in Bangladesh, I'm not touching it because child labor and whatever. And then I just started sifting through my wardrobe, just taking things out that I didn't need. So now I just started making conscious decisions about what I was buying. When I then started working, I started thinking about how I could incorporate this. So sustainability covers fair wages, covers fair practice, it covers even, your materials, covers living conditions. So when I started designing, I also started taking that into account and making sure that the people that I was working with were also well paid and that they were paid on time. And knowing that the people that you're working with are living a decent life. So 2015, I joined Fashion Revolution. So they came about after the Rana Plaza collapse. And that was when thousands of lives were lost in a factory that was making clothes for a lot of retail brands, brands that we all actively go into. So again, me being me, dropped an email and I was like, hi, just wanted to find out what you guys are doing and what I can do. I'm based in Zim. Started having a conversation, and then I became the country coordinator for Zim. So through Fashion Revolution, started getting a whole lot more material, which is accessible to everyone. Literally, if you go on the Fashion Revolution website, started realizing that some of the things that are being done overseas cannot be done in Zim because of cost. Then I realized that in Zim, sustainability was just how we're working with the materials that we're having. And then most recently, I've been going through a journey of zero wasting or reducing waste. So reduce waste in terms of the fabric that we buy when we're cutting. Now I've even found on the cutting floor, where I work, how if you save some of the bits of materials, either you can join them together and make something new, or they actually fit into other outfits. So I find that most recently as well, when people are placing orders, right, I don't need to buy new lining sometimes because I've already got it from my old stock. There's a dress that I made that just went terribly wrong. And instead of throwing the fabric away and calling it a day, I started unpicking the whole thing. I'm using that fabric plus fabric that I had left over from another design, plus leather, because I also love leather. I discovered the leather industry in Bulawayo. And also this is something that is just never spoken about in Zimbabwe, but we have a booming and thriving leather industry, right? Who are sustainable in the way that they're tanning their leather. So these are all things that I just didn't realize were there, but are at our doorstep. So that is where we are, where I am now as well in my sustainable journey. You kind of have to in this industry, right? So you get thrown into it. I was given one induction downtown, And then the person that gave me the induction was like, I need to get back to work, so welcome to life. And that's it. But I've always been that person. I'll just pick up my bags and go. So if I get a call, no matter where it is, I just have a look and see if it's safe. In terms of safe, I mean, is there war? If there's no war, pack my bags, make a call to the powers that be, and I'm just like, I'm leaving for 2 or 3 months. Like, people are used to it. The people around me are used to it. So I just want to see things and learn things. And I'm open to travel, which is why I just go and get on chicken buses to countries that I've never been to. And yeah, just to see what's there. So all the best fabric is downtown. All the best fabric is in places that you probably, if I was to take you there, you'd be like, what are we doing here? So you just have to go with it. And I suppose also as people start to see you and trust you as well, you start to build that relationship. If I've been away for a long time, people actually stop and ask, we haven't been seeing you, have you been away? But this is just from building relationships, especially now with the situation that we're in, right? Where you walk into a shop and things are just changing overnight. So again, you have to have relationships with the people in the shops, right? Just for you to understand, or even just book material and be like, listen, I'm getting this material, I am coming back. Or, where it's cash only and you're like, please, can I just eco cash? You know what I mean? Like, it's just it's relationship building. So yeah, it's just keeping up to it, and also just being humble as well. Because you can't go in there and be like, oh my gosh, it's so dirty. Yes, we know it's dirty. Like, they're not picking up the rubbish. But you just go in best foot forward and do what you have to do. I get calls on a Sunday, and there are times that I'm like, oh, you know what, I want my Sundays to myself, but I can't afford to do that. As number one, I'm a small business owner. I work for myself. So just drawing the fine line is tricky. I can pick up calls like at 6 a.m. I've had a call at 6 a.m. to make wedding clothes, which were due like in 3 days. And I'm just like, okay, you know what, I'll do it, because that is who I am. I need to deliver when I'm called to deliver, right? There are times where I then go and get my personal space, and it's almost like an isolation. But then I find that also offends, my friends, where I'm like, okay, I just need a time out. So when I'm taking a time out, just kind of, 3 or 4 days, just so I can regroup, because I also need to keep pressing the reset button. But again, it's taken those that are close to me to understand that when I do that, everything is perfectly normal. I just need to reset. So I need to do better with that. I also need to do better with getting holidays, which is also tricky, because I'm out here thinking I need a holiday. And then because my work is in batches, I can have a whole month and I'm like, I need to be working, I need to be working. So it's now just starting to understand that sometimes the natural breaks are the holidays that I would have been craving all along. Because when I start something, it often runs 4 to 5 months in blocks. And then, you have the 1 month where you can regroup, and then it starts again. So it's now just starting to understand what that means. I would say not only just related to fashion design, but anything that you want to do. I believe that we are built with gifts within us, and these gifts are supposed to be used and utilized. I've learned on the ground as opposed to in a classroom. I've made real mistakes that I've often wanted to just dig a hole and bury myself into it, but then I've had to learn to get up again. So whatever you're called to do, just do it with everything that you can. The resources that you have around you might not necessarily be education or formal training, but where if you want to sew, for instance, and you have a machine and scissors and someone that you can sit and teach you, that is how you learn. I've been taught by one of my seamstresses. I've had a series that are just so impatient, and then this one woman who will literally sit and then we'll look at the sketch, and then she'll be like, okay, right, this is how you want this thing to come out, right? Let's sit and let's do it together. Go for it and use it. Do not be afraid. And fear is what actually holds you back again. I would say be open to failing, because you are going to fail. And sometimes you're going to fail so bad. But then when you get up from that failing, you actually would have learned just, a bigger lesson in everything. So whatever your gift is, it's tricky with our parents who are conventional and believe certain boxes, although now I'm seeing that more parents are actually seeing and allowing their kids, to go out and be who they are. So just go for it. And then this is also us to the next generation as well. So I was sitting there the one day thinking, if I was to build a fashion legacy and leave it to my children, what would it look like? And then I thought, no, this is not right, because I am created unique and I am created with a person, with a purpose. So when I then have children, those children also have their own purpose in life that they need to achieve. So it's not necessarily fair that I create this whole thing and assume that they are then going to go into it. So it's the same thing. Just follow what is inside of you and just follow your purpose.
Thank you for watching this episode of The Hub. If you want to follow our amazing guest, check out her social media handles in the description below. Until next time, this is The Hub.